What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I just finished watching a interview with Eddie Hearn, and he was talking about Wilder and Wilder's comments, which I'm gonna do an exclusive interview on that, a separate one actually. But he was simply, countering Stephen Espinosa because Espinosa was saying, "Hey, we got proof." That we sent you a contract, or I didn't send it, but it was sent. Then Wilder say he sent it, and it was like, Eddie Hearn was like, what the fuck is Wilder sending a contract for? Which makes perfect sense. Like, that's a very good question. Why the hell would Wilder be sending anything at all? Like, as far as that type of shit. Why would Deontay Wilder message or email Eddie Hearn personally? That's dumb. You know what I mean? Because if he's doing that, what the fuck is he paying all these other people for? He's paying Heyman, Finkel, DeBella, fucking Mark Breland. I think he has a piece of that. Like, none of them motherfuckers could have done that. What he did. It just makes you think, man. Like, it just make it look. You have a deadline for $50 million. So how would you assure somebody that you had $50 million saying shit like that? First of all, if you had $50 million that you say you had to offer to someone for a fight, right? But they only had 2 days to say yes or no. Like what the money's gonna disappear in 48 fucking hours? Like what is that? Like, how are you supposed to believe or how are you going to pass that shit on to people? Make people believe that you had $50 million to give one fighter, right? Of course, to buy the rights or whatever, but why would you have to put a deadline on $50 million if you had $50 million? So if people are questioning, well, why do we got to decide in 2 fucking days? Without even knowing the stipulations, the contract, the details, anything. We don't know anything besides, oh yeah, well, here's $50 million. You gonna take it? Say you're gonna take it first. You want to sit down and talk about it? No, say you're gonna take it first. Like, who the fuck is gonna do that in their right mind? That is a legitimate businessman or businesswoman or business person, right? Who the fuck is gonna do that? Anybody in their right mind would question, okay, well, why are you got a deadline on the $50 million if the shit is legit? It sounds real sketchy. It sounds like some shit they would have said yes, and then, or you had something binding, and then they can own the rights to it and everything, which the other side, which is the A side, which is Joshua's side, wouldn't know shit about it at all. You know what I mean? They wouldn't know anything about that whatsoever. So I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, why would Wilder be emailing Eddie Hearn personally? You know what I mean? Where he's paying other people to do that. Then it was a 48-hour deadline on the money. Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, what? Why would the money, or why would the deal be only 48 hours? See, that sounds suspicious. That makes you think, like, damn, did you really have the $50 million? You know? But if it's a guarantee that Joshua's going to get 50 million bucks, okay, well, I think that deal should... See, here's the problem. If they offered Anthony Joshua $50 million, the difference between their deal and the deals that Eddie Hearn offered, those deals are still on the table. Those deals are still available for them to pick up where they left off. That's the fucking difference. That $50 million is not on the table anymore. So it's not like, oh, nah, we don't want to fight for $50 million. That's not how the fuck that went. And people try to convey that or make people believe that was the narrative. Joshua looked at the fucking money and said, no, I don't believe it's there, so we won't fight. No. Deontay Wilder fucking emailed Eddie Hearn, which You know, it just hit me tonight. Like, why the fuck is he doing that? Listen to that interview. You know, why would Deontay Wilder be emailing Eddie Hearn? And another thing, this whole debacle about Steven Espinosa and Eddie Hearn getting into it off Twitter or whatever. You know what's dumb about that is, why are we still talking about the same shit that happened damn near this time last year? See, here's the problem with both sides, okay? Or really, it's not really both sides. It's Wilder's side, because they're the main ones that keep talking and rehashing and regurgitating the fucking $50 million situation. Because it wasn't a fucking deal. There was no $50 million deal. It was a $50 million situation. That's what you can call it. That's what we have to call it, right? Because there was no contract for the $50 million. They wouldn't send the shit. Make that make sense. Just let that sink in. You're offering someone $50 million fucking dollars with no contract. Does that make any sense? Then you wait a year later behind the voice of Steven Espinosa and say, hey, yeah, we had details concerning it in an email concerning that. Well, fuck, show that you sent it to Eddie Hearn. The shit's all in draft. The shit's all in sent. Okay? You can prove that you sent something there and blast and put it on social media. Oh, I'm not going to do that. So how are we going to know? Take your word for it? We're going to take your word for something that you say you have, but you won't show. It's called show and tell, right? That's one of the pantomimes that Italians use. You know what I mean? It's show and tell. You're telling me everything, but you ain't showing me nothing. That's a pantomime. So, no, I'm not going to buy the pantomime. Now, somebody with a lower IQ, you know what I mean, would believe that shit because all they're seeing is $50 million. That's all they're seeing. And that the amount of $50 million makes people's eyes big, make people's mouth drop. But they're not looking at the details. They don't even know what the details. And I remember, and I questioned that too. And I was like, wait a minute, you know, Anthony Joshua, he said his devil's in the details. And I didn't understand it at the time. I was like, well, no, because he said, well, I'm not going to give it away. And I'm thinking, well, that's $50 million. But the more and more things kept coming to the surface, the more I started to understand what the fuck was actually going on. You know, I was there through the whole thing. Deontay Wilder said, hey, I have $50 million. You about your word. You said you won $50 million. And Anthony Joshua was like, let's roll. But on the business end, none of it made sense. None of it. None of that shit made sense. You didn't have a contract. You said you had $50 million. You gave it a deadline. That's what we have. That was that. Frank Warren said, yeah, we were going to put that fight together, right? Lou DiBella signed off on that and said, so what? What's wrong with that? You're dealing with a British fighter. You're going to need a British promoter. What's wrong with that? We buy rights to it. So he's not only is he admitting it, Lou DiBella, that Frank Warren was involved, he was saying, like, so what is he fucking involved? Why wouldn't he not be involved? What's the problem with that? Like, damn, you motherfuckers know something that I don't? What's the problem here? So that's the whole thing about that. And then Steven Espinosa caught him in a lie. Oh, no, Frank was never involved. Well, tell that to Frank, because Frank said he was. You know what I mean? Lou DiBella said he was. He signed on to saying that he was. Okay, so, man, and here's the thing. Why did we have to find out about those stipulations through Frank Warren? That's how we found out he was involved, because he said he was involved. Because there are so many secret things and hidden facts behind that $50 million that they didn't even want to discuss with the other side. Come on, man. Make that shit make sense. You mean to tell me you're offering someone $50 million, no contract, no details in the contract, then you wait a year later, damn near a year later, and say, oh, well, we sent you details. Where was the fucking details all this time? Why is Steven Espinosa saying this now? A fucking year later, 11 months, right? It was 10, 11 months, damn near a year, okay? Why is he just now saying this? This doesn't make sense to me. You know what I'm saying? So that $50 million bullshit, it was just a situation. It was not a fucking deal. It wasn't an offer. It was just a situation. That's the only thing I can rule it as. You know? And then, you know, dumb motherfuckers are going to say, well, you know, he turned down $50 million. No, he didn't turn down $50 million. He wanted to see, okay, what's up with the $50 million? What do I got to do exactly for it? Sure, I know fight, but what is it going to cost? What's the deal? What's, you know, where's it going to be? What's the venue? What's the fucking date? You know what I mean? Like, those type of things you want to know, especially if you're a promoter. Because Deontay did send it to his promoter, Eddie Hearn, right? Hell, he would have been better off sending it to Anthony Joshua. Would have made more sense. Because it was one fighter sending it to another fighter like Floyd did Manny, right? But at the end of the day, he sent it to a fighter, sent a proposal to Eddie Hearn, which is retarded. You know, so, and the grand scheme of this, we've said all this, kind of revisits some bullshit, kind of got enlightened on some other bullshit. Oh, I know, at least I have. And where does it leave us now? That's the whole problem. Where the fuck does it leave us right now? Nowhere. Because Wilder's team, they keep coming up with the same shit. If you're still talking about the past, fuck that. We're not living in the past. I wish I could live in the past, because there's a lot of good shit in the past, because I know where I've been, but I do not know where I'm going. So I'm like, okay, what's the damn deal? You know, like, really, what's the deal? Like, are we going to move on and get the fight, or are we going to bicker and piss and moan about a fucking situation of money that was never backed by a contract? Which one are we going to do? Like, which one are we going to do right now? Because as long as they keep talking about that shit, it will be no progress whatsoever. None. So we have to move on from all this shit. Steven Espinosa is talking about that $50 million if that shit was last Thursday. And that shit's been damn near a year ago. And he's still, I was just so hurt. You know, I don't believe nothing Eddie Hearn says. You know, I don't trust him and I don't this. You know, but they know what we want. You know, so that's what it is. You know, but these guys, you know, I mean, Eddie, he's trying to move on past that. You know what I mean? But if I'm Eddie at this point, I wouldn't be arguing with Steven Espinosa about shit. Because Steven Espinosa is not in a really good place anyway. You know what I mean? Wilder's stating his independence. Tyson Fury signed with ESPN. And Joshua is long gone. On his own. You know, so there's no guarantee he'll fight on Showtime. And if you piss off Eddie Hearn, why would he want to fuck with you with his number one top heavyweight? Okay, let that shit sink in. So I wouldn't even listen to Steven Espinosa or bicker or even discuss that shit about $50 million anymore. The next time he tries to say, well, you know, you guys did this, you know what? Are we going to move on from this? When can we make a fight happen? You know what I mean? Talk about future possible proposals. Not shit that already happened. But anyway, I just wanted to lay that on you guys. Wanted to know what you thought about it. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunched. Peace.